welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something, well, it's challenging, but it's also absolutely critical.
It really is.
We're going to decode the really sophisticated tactics of manipulation and coercion.
And they show up everywhere, don't they?
Everywhere, in our relationships, in technology, even in history. The goal here isn't to make you paranoid. It's to arm you with some deep, structured clarity.
That's exactly right. We want to analyze these tactics so you can see them coming. Because manipulation, it's not always the big dramatic lie.
No.
It's often much quieter. It's subtle language. It's exploiting our own social instincts. And even, simple technological shortcuts.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We're going to structure our deep dive around three sort of core areas.
Okay.
First, we'll get into the subtle language of psychological abuse, specifically how narcissistic patterns can twist your reality.
Then we'll look at how things like affection and obligation can get weaponized.
And finally, we'll get practical. We'll look at real-world defensive strategies, everything from your finances to your cybersecurity.
So let's start with psychological manipulation itself. At its most basic, it's when one person is systematically used for the benefit of another.
Creating an imbalance of power.
Deliberately. And that control isn't random. It's aimed right at hijacking your behavior, your thoughts, and your actions.
And when you talk about that kind of control, that need to control someone's perception, the term gaslighting always comes up. It's a popular word now, but the mechanism behind it is so important to understand.
It's arguably one of the most destructive forms of manipulation.
Why is that?
Because it attacks your sanity. It's where a person makes you doubt your own reality, your own memory. The whole point is to create confusion and exert total control. It's like a constant chipping away at your internal compass.
And this often goes hand in hand with narcissistic abuse, right? It's linked to traits of narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD.
Exactly. People who operate this way.
Yeah.
They have this constant need for admiration, for attention, but they have a real lack of empathy.
And a belief in their own superiority.
A powerful and often very fragile belief. And that combination makes them experts at twisting reality to shift blame.
So the focus always stays on them.
Always.
So what does that actually sound like? Let's get into some specific phrases. One of the big ones is minimization and blame shift. They'll say something like, "You're overreacting."
Oof, that's a classic.
Yeah.
It instantly invalidates your feelings. It shifts the focus from their behavior to your supposed instability.
And suddenly you're defending your reaction instead of talking about what they did.
And that's the goal. But a simple, measured response can just shut that down.
Like what?
Something like, "This is important to me and I want to address it respectfully." It refuses to engage in the drama they want. You're setting a boundary.
Okay, what about another one? The one that uses guilt, emotional blackmail. If you really loved me, you would.
That's just pure control. It's designed to manipulate your loyalty.
And the counter to that is almost as simple. Just love shouldn't come with conditions.
It's powerful because it's true. Then there's the tactic of invalidating concerns by attacking your character.
Oh, like you're only saying that because you're insecure.
Exactly. It's a direct attempt to make your point invalid by making it about a flaw in your personality.
Not about the actual issue.
Right. And the effective response there is just to steer it back to the facts. Even if I do have insecurities, that doesn't make my concern invalid. Let's focus on the issue, not my personality.
And the last one, which is just infuriating, the false apology.
"I'm sorry you think that I hurt you."
Or "I'm sorry you feel that way."
Yes. That phrasing is so specific, it pushes all the responsibility back onto you. It makes you question if you're just being too sensitive. It normalizes their behavior.
So that's how language can control us. But manipulators also weaponize our capacity for affection, for bonding.
Which brings us to a tactic known as love bombing.
Love bombing. The idealization phase. The part that feels so good at first.
It's designed to feel good. In fact, it's designed to be intoxicating. Love bombing is when someone just overwhelms you with affection and praise.
And this rush of feeling, it actually floods your brain with serotonin and dopamine.
It does. It creates euphoria, a high dependency. You feel completely consumed by all this attention.
So this is where we need those warning signs. How do you tell the difference between genuine passion and something more calculated?
The biggest indicator is the pace. It's always too much too soon.
Too much too soon.
That's the red flag. Look for someone insisting you're soulmates within a few weeks. Or these lavish, grand gestures, expensive gifts, trips that feel totally out of proportion for how long you've known each other.
Saying "I love you" incredibly fast.
Yes, and then maybe getting really upset if you don't say it back immediately. There's also that intense clinginess.
The hourly texts, that feeling of being constantly watched, it goes from flattering to suffocating really fast.
Exactly, and the love bombing part is just the beginning of this really predictable, exhausting cycle.
What's the cycle?
First is idealization. That's the love bombing. Then comes devaluation.
That's the criticism, the emotional
The
distance.
confusion starts. And finally, the discard. They might ghost you, withdraw completely, or just turn cold. This whole roller coaster is what can lead to something called trauma bonding.
Okay, so let's shift from affection to a different social norm. Obligation. Reciprocity. We're basically hardwired to feel like we need to return favors. In a healthy relationship, it's a balanced give and take.
But manipulators, they know this about us. And they exploit that norm with surgical precision. They engage in what we call the dark side of reciprocity.
How does that work?
They give you unsolicited favors, big favors you didn't ask for, purely to create a sense of debt,
It's not generosity. It's designed to cause reciprocity anxiety.
a pressure to pay them back.
Right. And this can get really complex, even leading to something called proxy manipulation, where they get you to harm someone else without you even realizing it.
Okay, you've got to break that down for me. So imagine an aggressor does you a huge favor. You now feel like you owe them.
Right.
The aggressor then cashes in that debt by asking you to perform an act that causes concealed harm to a third person.
Can you give me an analogy?
Sure, think of it like this. Your friend asks you to drop off a sealed package at a colleague's office to pay back that favor. You do it. You feel good, debt repaid.
Okay.
But you find out later that the package contained false information that got that colleague fired. You delivered the blow, but you had no idea. You were an innocent agent.
You lack the intent.
You lacked the intent, but you were the instrument of deceit. That's using psychological leverage at its absolute worst.
Wow. So recognizing these tactics is step one. Step two has to be defense.
Absolutely.
The problem is that a psychological manipulator thrives on your emotional reaction, on what's called narcissistic supply.
Which brings us to a really specific defensive strategy. The gray rock method.
The goal, I guess, is to become gray rock. Boring. Uninteresting.
Exactly. You deprive them of that emotional supply they crave. You stay neutral, keep interactions really brief, and you just don't give them any overt emotional reaction.
And a key part of this is that you do it without announcing it.
Oh, that's crucial. If you tell the abuser what you're doing, they'll just find a way to manipulate the strategy itself.
Okay, hold on. If the goal is to just be this dull rock, doesn't that mean you have to suppress everything you're actually feeling?
That's a really important point.
I mean, that sounds exhausting in a whole different way. Is it actually safe for the person using it?
Well, you're right to be cautious. Prolonged use can lead to the person feeling emotionally numb, disconnected from themselves. And we have to give a serious warning here. This method can be extremely dangerous in situations with physical or emotional abuse.
Because the abuser might escalate.
They might escalate. If they're deprived of their supply, they could increase verbal attacks, become violent, or even start targeting people you care about.
So given those risks, assertive communication and setting clear boundaries are so important. But the manipulation isn't just emotional, it often gets very practical, especially with finances.
Coerced debt is a huge tool of control.
Because if they control your money, they have enormous leverage over you.
Absolutely. So the protective steps here have to be very specific. The first thing is to set up a new bank account, solely in your name.
With a PIN and password they could never guess.
You have to create a safe, independent financial space. Direct all your paychecks there. Get the statement sent somewhere secure.
And something a lot of people don't know is that you have the right, as a consumer, to put a security freeze on your credit reports.
That is critical. You won't erase existing debt, but it is a powerful barrier that stops the abuser from opening new credit cards or loans in your name.
And it's worth noting some states, like Maine and Texas, even have laws that can make debt from documented economic abuse non-collectible.
Which is a huge step forward.
Okay, so this brings us from personal survival to the macro level. How manipulation infects entire systems, like cybersecurity.
And what's so fascinating here is that the most complex cyber attacks, they run on the exact same human psychology we've been talking about.
It's not about the code, it's about the person.
Yeah, and the numbers here are just, they're staggering. Get this, something like 98% of all cyber attacks rely on human manipulation, on social engineering.
98%. So it's not about technical glitches.
It's almost never about the tech. It's about exploiting our cognitive biases, especially our trust heuristic, our natural, tendency to believe people are telling the truth.
Which is a good thing in a functioning society, but a huge vulnerability online. So what do these digital tactics look like?
Well, you have the classics, like phishing. Attackers pretending to be a legitimate company, sending you to a fake website to steal your login.
Right.
And then there's baiting. That one plays on our curiosity. Leaving a USB drive labeled executive salaries in the parking lot, so we'll always plug it in.
And they always lean on urgency and authority.
Always. Urgent requests that demand you bypass verification. They'll use phrases like, the CEO needs this now, or according to experts. They create a high-pressure scenario where you don't have time to think.
A common one is claiming they're traveling and can't access the normal system.
Right, which sounds plausible. But the defense is surprisingly simple, though not always easy. It's verification procedures, training, and a security culture.
Trust but verify.
That's the core advice. Don't let the pressure override.
And this kind of human manipulation, it's not new. It's been at the center of power and court intrigue for centuries. I mean, look at a literary example like Dangerous Liaisons.
A perfect example.
Yeah.
Marquise de Merteuil and the Vicomte de Valmont, they used manipulative games and sex as a weapon.
It wasn't about pleasure, it was about control.
It was a systematic process of controlling and then discarding innocent victims. Their game was all about social dominance through emotional destruction.
And we see it in real history, too. Like the Overbury scandal in the Jacobean Court, which rocked England in the early 1600s.
This was high-stakes political poisoning, literally. The murder of Thomas Overbury because he opposed a politically inconvenient marriage involving the king's favorite courtier.
And the investigation just blew the lid off the corruption in the court of King James III.
It did. And what makes it so relevant to our deep dive is how the news of this scandal spread, how it connected the elite drama to ordinary people.
It traveled through personal letters, which were like the original newsletters for the wealthy.
But also, crucially, through what they called critical libels. These were basically attack poems set to popular, catchy tunes.
So ballad singers in taverns were spreading the news.
Exactly. And the whole affair just shattered the reputation of King James because it showed how the manipulative whims of a few powerful people could have these devastating consequences for the whole country.
So, after all this, what does it all mean for you listening? We've traced this line from the insidious nature of psychological language to love bombing, and all the way to how these ancient principles of influence pop up in Jacobean courts and modern cyber scams.
It's true that our brains are, they're hardwired with these social shortcuts that make us vulnerable. We're built to believe people, to reciprocate, to feel affection.
We're features, not bugs.
They are. But this deep dive is about empowerment through knowledge. You now have a framework to recognize when behavior is motivated by manipulation and control, and not by genuine connection or honest intent.
So we'll leave you with this final important thought to kind of chew on. If manipulation thrives when demands exceed our capacity, when we feel overwhelmed, what is one small, immediate step you could take today to reduce that information overload? Or to set one clear boundary, just one, to protect your own capacity to pause, to verify, and to think critically.
Something to think about.
Think about it. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.